You're listening to The Social Workers on WCDB Albany.
Hi, you're listening to the Social Workers Radio Talk Show on WCDB 90.9 FM Albany. I'm your host today, Alyssa Lotmore, LMSW. Our other host, Catherine Zacks, will be back with us next week. We have a really exciting show today with our guest, CEO and founder, Carmen Duncan. She founded Mission Accomplished Transition Services, which is committed to coaching and training adolescents to become self-sufficient, responsible adults who prepare them for the global economy and making positive choices. As a school social worker for 4 years after I finished my graduate degree in social work, one of the focuses I always had was making sure that the students I was working with were able to transition into not only high school, because I was in a middle school, but into college and or a career. And so much of the focus today is helping kids get through that. Sometimes there's a lot of hand holding, and we really aren't teaching our students and our young adults to be self-sufficient, to be able to do these tasks on their own without all the supports that sometimes are offered in the school setting. So one of the things that I really like about Carmen's program is it's teaching students and young adults those skills so that they can do things on their own. Carmen is here in the studio with us actually today. So she is an alumni of Rockefeller College and obtained her master's in social welfare and a certificate in nonprofit management and leadership back in 2012. She pursued these diplomas to support her vision of operating Mission Accomplished Transition Services. So Carmen, tell us a little bit briefly about Mission Accomplished, but then go into how it is why you decided to start this program.
Well, first, let me say that I'm also an alum at the School of Social Welfare. So I was in both schools simultaneously, pursuing their certificate as well as the graduate degree at the same time. So I don't want to forget our wonderful School of Social Welfare. How did I get started? Let's see. Well, I in my undergrad at Sage, I came up with the concept of Mission Accomplished, and originally the focus was transitional housing for youth in a runaway homeless system, based on my own personal experience with a short stint of teenage homelessness, and with some guidance I was introduced to an independent living program through a not-for-profit organization in Albany. And within the organization, they offer young people who are experiencing homelessness, whether in a foster care system or just someone that comes in voluntarily, apartments. And we live with teenagers. So I lived with a teenager who was also ill prepared really to take care of an apartment and some adult responsibilities. But we made it through with supports, mentors, families, and other people in our life who believed in us. However, while I was in graduate school, I realized that there are some serious gaps with transitioning into adulthood and into the workforce. And our workforce has changed over the last decade. There's an expectation that you need to be innovative. You truly have to be an initiator. Because there's so much going on and there's so many moving parts, there are a lot of managers or directors who need people that are going to take initiative, because with the technology now, we are expected to be everywhere, like all the time, Yeah. So in order for you to really be prepared to transition into these roles and not really have to fight to get into the door, to have a position that's going to help you be economically independent from the system or from your parents, you have to be able to initiate and be a self-starter and know how to manage several balls at the same time. So I decided to offer coaching and personal and professional development training instead of the transitional housing, so that young people would be able to engage in these training opportunities before they get into the workforce or while they're in the workforce, because generally you're not really participating in difficult training until you get into the workforce. And sometimes you're not even really challenged.
Exactly. So you had this vision of what you wanted to do. How did you actually go about starting it? I mean, we all have ideas and things that we want to do, but how did you actually go from an idea to actually putting this in practice?
I woke up one day and said, "Gotta do it." But I mean, through my time working, I made a lot of contacts. I developed a lot of relationships. I allowed myself to be professionally vulnerable and asking a lot of questions on how you do this and how you do that. How do you really become an entrepreneur or a social entrepreneur, and move forward and actually implement your idea. So I really believe that my experience in both schools at the same time really, really helped with creating a foundation of my understanding of what a not-for-profit is supposed to look like.
So for those who don't really know, the social work provided the background in how would you describe the difference of the two schools, what you learned?
Social work provided a foundation of what it means to look at social concerns on a macro level.
And for macro, that means more of the community-based, non-for-profit management kind of piece instead of the individual counseling piece.
Right. And the Rockefeller College taught me the politics.
Gotcha. Which is important to know.
Right. So I was really able to develop relationships with professors who were in the ins and outs of what the politics look like. And I took one class that was specifically for social policy. And being able to look at that from a different lens, not so much, I'm this, feel-good person that knows that this specific legislation is wrong, but truly learning how these legislations are developed, how they're implemented, what is happening on the backside, and actually being challenged to work in groups with people who may not have the same ideas as you when it comes to politics. That can be, it could be difficult, but you don't have any choice but to get through it because you need to pass.
Yeah. I mean, it's such an amazing thing, really, what you did. I don't know if you really... It's great what you're doing. I mean, to think of starting your own nonprofit right out of school and learning learning all the skills that you need to actually do that. So many times, when we graduate, we're just focused on getting that job and getting that experience, because we don't have that confidence yet in ourselves to be able to do this. And for you to actually dedicate your whole college sort of to create this program and then actually doing it is an amazing thing. And I think a lot of people can look to you and say, wow, that's somebody who did that. And it's a possibility for me to do too. So when you started Mission Accomplished, what were some of the challenges you might have had to start this program?
Well, I appreciate the acknowledgement.
Well, it's true.
And let me go back a second, because you asked me how did I actually do it. The papers that we have to write in our classes certainly helped because I had to do so much research and truly figuring out, what is organizational culture? What's organizational climate? What is a SWOT analysis? Which, for individuals who are not familiar with SWOT analysis, that's being able to identify the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats within an organization. And force field analysis, which means that you have to look at both your internal and your external factors that have an impact on what is going on within your organization. So with having to look at the internship that I was in at the time, and having to write these papers and go in and look at it from the perspective of developing these plans for an organization as a very new professional, helped me recognize, okay, this is what I need to do when I actually have this organization. Okay, organizational culture, organizational climate, understanding what the chain of commands are, and so that really helped. And then taking the step of reaching out to find out how we're going to operate. Are we going to operate as a not-for-profit that doesn't have the 501c3 status yet, or are we going to reach out to a larger organization that's willing to be a parent or a fiscal sponsor to our organization so that we could function as a tax-exempt organization? So we now have a fiscal sponsor, which is Albany Community Action Partnership in Albany on Sheridan Avenue, and that allows us to operate as a 501c3 organization, while simultaneously I'm getting a little bit of guidance from them on how to manage the finances, what it means to develop an organization, and just being a CEO. I've never been a CEO before.
Well, you seem to be doing a great job at it.
Oh, thank you. So you asked a question and I forgot what the question was.
So were there you seem really prepared going into this. I mean, it seems like your focus in college was directed toward this, but was there anything that happened that you didn't really expect? Was there any sort of those challenges that you're like, oh, I didn't know that, but now let's try to adjust and move through it?
I was very enthusiastic that the fundraising was just going to be so easy. So it's not easy, but it's exciting. You know, you come up against these barriers or these obstacles, and you get over them, and you have your lessons learned, and you move on, and you do it again. There are some relationships that I thought were going to be a little bit more supportive. And they're not as supportive as I thought that they were going to be, that I assumed that they would be, but still recognizing that these individuals or these organizations are still supporting mission accomplished in their own way, not the way that I envision it, and recognizing that as an asset to both organizations or to myself and my colleague. And also managing people, and as a manager, you have to learn how to have several different personalities, because you're working with people who have several different personalities, and we all have our management styles, and we all have our way that we interact with people. But you really have to be several different people at the same time sometimes. And
wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah. So, you know, when you're sitting in front of, three people who have three different personalities, you have to figure out how to manage that without offending someone.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Mission Accomplished and what it does, what the goal is, and how the programs. I know you do a lot of groups and trainings for the individuals who are participating. Tell us a little bit about those. Our workshop series, which is under our Before and After Pictures program, and the reason that we called it Before and After Pictures is because the idea is that before you come into the workshop, you have an idea of what the topic is, and when you leave, you have increased your knowledge and your skill. Once you're quote unquote graduating from this 2 to 3 hour session. And the workshops are focused on both professional and personal development. For example, we had a workshop last week that focused on self-care and taking care of yourself through massage and positive touch. And we had a licensed massage therapist who gave 10-minute massages to people. But we also have our Seeking, Getting, and Keeping a Job series, which focuses on resume design, reference page and cover letter development, business etiquette, and networking skills. And within our
our workshops, there's a time for the information session where there's dialogue between the co-facilitators and the audience, and then the part 2 of that session, which is at the same time, the same day, is about skill development. So now being able to take this knowledge and these skills that you just learned about in conversation and being able to apply them to a real life situation.
So this is where the social work piece comes in, where you're really focusing on the whole person. You're focusing not only on the skill building and the actual things like resume building, but you're also focusing on that self-care piece, which is so important for young adults, because if you do too much in one area, you have to be balanced, or you're going to burn out, or it's not going to be as successful. So is that the Casey Life Skills Assessment? I know I was reading a little bit about that. Is that how your focus is?
With the Casey, the Casey Life Skills Assessment has 8 life skill areas within it. So to help us with staying on track of offering workshops in different life skill areas, we use the Casey to focus us a bit.
Okay. And what are some of the areas that you're working on? You said it has 8 different areas. What are some of those areas that you focus on in your to develop your trainings?
Okay. Self-care, so taking care of yourself. Looking forward is one of the life skills, which is about self-confidence, and that's really embedded within all of our workshops. It's about being able to help people with recognizing themselves as an asset. Although you may be 13 or you may be 20, you're still an asset to our society, and being able to show up as such. Another area is permanency, which is about developing relationships and maintaining a network of support that's going to help you with becoming successful. And that's also embedded within all of the workshops that we offer. Our workshops are not all the time facilitated by individuals who are working within the organization. We partner with local professionals. This way, the audience, as well as the teen or young adult facilitator, is able to learn about other professionals that are out there outside of Mission Accomplished, and other professionals who have a vested interest in their development and in their success. So our workshops are generally, majority of the time, are co-facilitated by a veteran professional and a teen or young adult within the 13 to 24 age group, depending on the audience that we're inviting to that specific workshop. And then you have relationships and communication. So we've had transition forums, which really talked about what does transition mean to a teen or young adult. We've had a relationship forum. What do intimate relationships mean? What are friends with benefits? What does it mean to be in a committed relationship? And now what we found in our transition forum is that there are a lot of young people out there that do not have truly meaningful friendships, nor do they really understand what friendship is. It's really about them just being connected to something. Yeah. So now we're going to have a little bit of a focus on what does friendship mean. So in December, we're going to have a friendship forum that is coupled with a cooking session.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So that we can have some young people come in and talk about, so and hopefully they'll come with their best friend or their little cliques, so what does it mean to be a friend? How do you support each other? Or when you get into an argument, does that mean that this isn't my best friend anymore? Or does it mean that you develop conflict management skills and you have a conversation about why you got into an argument, and now how are we going to be able to move forward and continue to be friends and laugh about this later?
Yeah, because I think in school, things like this used to be addressed in school, but with a lot of the focus shifting now toward testing and, only the academic piece, we're sort of losing a lot of that social skill, social interaction piece. So students or young adults aren't really as prepared as they might have been before in regards to conflict management, how to deal with these things when you and your friend disagree. Right. And I noticed that myself when I was in the school setting. It was the students would sort of blow up a little bit more than over the years, as we started to do less and less of the team-based activities in class. There was little icebreaker activities at the beginning of the class where students would, be given a scenario and have to work together with their classmates to solve them. So I'm glad that this is the focus of your program, because I am seeing sort of a decrease in young adults' ability to be able to have that, different perspective type of view from peers and be able to handle it in a way that is positive and healthy conflict resolution.
Right. And our focus is 13 to 24. So it's both teens and young adults.
That's a great age, 13 to 24. That's when a lot of life happens, I guess you could say. That's when a lot of the transitions happening. Either it's, to middle school, to high school, to college, to a workforce, starting your first job. That's the age range that a lot of these young adults need these services. Mm-hmm. Now, who are the young adults that you're targeting? How do you form a base of individuals to come to your trainings?
We have been fortunate enough to have some referrals from some local youth-focused organizations, and we have relationships with a lot of parents who make sure that their children are coming to the sessions. We're starting to develop a stronger relationship with some students here on campus and some student groups here on campus, but our focus is. I really want to say all young people, it doesn't matter what socioeconomic background you come from, you're still in adolescence, and your brain is developing, you're developing, while also having all these expectations on you from society about what you're going to do, what you're going to be, how you're going to do it, why you're going to do it. No, I want you to do it this way. No, I want you to do it that way. So it really doesn't matter what your family situation is. Yep. You still deal with the same, the same transition issues. So we really just we advertise to the public, and whoever decides that they want to come to our workshops, our doors are open to them.
Is it mostly Albany County, or do you reach out to other surrounding counties as well? Or I should say Albany, the city of Albany, or the other, like the suburbs of Albany too?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
So, we're moving more towards capital region. Okay. Because we've seen that we've had young people who have come from Schenectady, who have come from Ravenna, who have come from Troy. So I'm really looking at being able to just say that mission accomplished. Our focus is the capital region.
Well, it's with a lot of the schools too, there's kids coming, if you're going to maybe a charter school or a private school, there's students coming from all different areas, and they see your service, and it's good that it's available to them even if they're not living in the city of Albany.
Right.
So that's a really great way to reach more students and have more young adults become involved. Because like you said, this is a skill that's needed. It's something that a lot of students aren't really prepared for when they get older. I was reading an article the other day, and it was talking about how a lot of students aren't really prepared for college once they get there. They're not with the time management pieces. It's not the academics, it's the time management piece, being away from home and having to do a budget, having to, plan your, grocery shopping and be able to schedule your time so you can get all the necessities done and still keep up with your academics, that balance. So even students, they had students from some private universities, who may have a more, be in the higher socioeconomic status in the background, but they still were lacking these skills. So you're right, it's a problem across the board. It doesn't matter with the socioeconomic status, because students from public universities, private universities, wherever they're coming from, at home, they're still lacking those skills in a type of way that's not helping them. Right. And I want to ask you, I don't know how familiar you are, the term helicopter parents. What do you see, for those who don't know, helicopter parents is the parents that sort of hover over their children and kind of do a lot of things for them, so they're not really learning the skills themselves. How do you find does that play a role in some of the stuff? Have you noticed that with some of the students that you're working with, or the young adults, I should say?
Right. Well, the teens and young adults, absolutely. And I recently had a conversation with a young woman, and I encouraged her to talk with her parents about what taking initiative means in a job, or just in life, because successes are not going to fall in your lap. Failures may not fall in your lap, or failures fall in your lap. How do you manage those failures and turn them into successes? Because a lot of people who are entrepreneurs probably failed 10 times before they made that one big success. Yeah. So certainly I have come in contact with some young people who do not have specific skills, and when you're asking those questions about why do you want to do this? Why do you want to go here? Why do you want that car? A lot of times their response is, well, because my dad, or because my mom, because my aunt, because my uncle, because my older sister. Yeah. So they are attaching themselves with the guider in their life, or the advisor in their life, and they haven't yet really detached themselves. And I've seen this with individuals who are between that 20 to 24 age group, and they're on their way to graduating from college, or their parents have gotten into a place where it's like, you need to pick up your bootstraps, buddy. Yeah. So they're kind of scrambling, and they're scared at the same time, rightfully so. Yeah. But I feel that when we are asking these questions about why and who are you as a person, when you detach yourself from these advisors in your life, who are you as a person? If I ask you, who are you going to say, my name is so-and-so, and this is who I am? And that, as easy as that may sound, it could be difficult for some people to answer that question.
It is, and I think as a new mom myself, I'm talking with a lot of parents now and other new moms, and I think it's sort of this focus from parents sometimes that we want to protect our child, and we want to make things easier for them. And one of the books that I follow is it's a series. It's called Love and Logic, and it's really teaching, being sort of that, showing empathy, but having that consequences as well. So letting your kids know that you care, but you did an action, and here you're going to have the consequence. So one of the scenarios I was reading the other day was talking about the child wanted to not wear a coat when they went outside. So it was about giving them the choice. They had to bring the coat with them, but it was sort of, they didn't have to put it on, and they went into the car, but they had to bring it with them. So they're driving, and the daughter's like, it's cold in here. Can you turn on the heat? And the father's like, no, I can't turn on the heat. What do you think we should do if you're cold? And it was about that thought process. You're cold. What do you think you should do? And after a while, she's like, I should put on my coat, and she put it on. So it was that, instead of having that power struggle of, you need to put on your coat right now or we're not leaving the house, sort of saying, you can put your coat on now, or you can take it with you in the car. And this, she took it with her in the car. She took that choice, and then when she got in the car, she realized that, hey, a consequences of not putting on my coat was I'm cold, and now I need a process on what to do, and now I'm going to put my coat on. So that was just one example. They have tons in the books about just how to help your child have a choice and understand the consequence of the choice, and then problem solve and go back to, okay, now this is what I have to do to fix the consequence, to make this better. Right. But so many times we have, parents say, put on your coat or do this, and then once the parents leaves, the kids will, take it off or do what they want because they had that power struggle. Mm-hmm. And it's really about having children at a young age be able to have a choice, make those decisions, and problem solve, so when they get older, they have those skills, because it's about a skill. It's not about just doing what you're told. Mm-hmm. It's about forming that skills, and that's what I think your program really does. It helps young adults, I should say, have the skill base, that knowledge base, to make their own decisions, to be able to say, okay, this is what I'm doing and this is where I need to go to get to where I want to be. And they have that base without having someone tell them what to do and hold their hand through it. Because what I found with a lot of the students that I was working with, if I held their hand too much, when they went off to high school and they didn't have that support, I checked in with them and they were doing horribly, because they didn't have the skill base. So I was a learning experience for me, where I had to sort of reframe what I was doing instead of trying to always make it easier for a student, saying, oh, they're having a hard time at home, and always having these excuses why I should help them more. Sort of saying the real way I'll help them is to prepare them for when I'm not going to be there anymore as that main support system. So, I mean, what you're doing, what is the reception from the young adults? Is it hard for them to be able to take on this new responsibility, or are they open to it, or is it scary?
It depends on the individual. It certainly depends on the individual. Some people don't call back. But I know it's appreciated, because when we see them in the community, it's not like, okay, I'm going to pretend like I don't see this person. It's more of an embrace, Mm-hmm. So, but it really depends on the person. And it could be a little overwhelming, because it's not... Though we're in a challenging world, we're not always challenged,
mm-hmm.
you know. So it could be a little overwhelming when you are being challenged and you don't really know what to do. And then also within our world, where depending on the culture, the subculture that you live in, you may not be accustomed to asking why,
mm-hmm.
or help me understand this a little bit more. Sometimes that's looked at as a deficit, mm-hmm. because you don't know the answer.
Yeah.
So that's another skill, about being inquisitive.
Yeah.
And asking a lot of questions.
Now, is there a component for parents as well to sort of help the student, their child, when they leave your program, either for the week or permanently? Is there something that parents should be doing to help continue the learning experience, continue their ability to practice these skills?
Well, we have, with our transition forms, we had two. One was for teens and young adults, and the other one was for parents, guardians, and service providers. And the purpose of that is so that we can develop that relationship with the parent, mm-hmm. so that the parent or the guardian or the service provider knows what his or her child or client is engaging in, mm-hmm. and how they can help them with continuing to develop the skill. Our financial literacy and planning workshop, the second piece to it is developing an individual budget. Mm-hmm. And with that, we are able to communicate with the adult in that young person's life and say, well, this is what they worked on when they were here, and we're going to follow up with them within the next few weeks or so. So, you can check in with them too and see if they're actually utilizing this mm-hmm. budget and paying attention to what they're spending their money on during the week. So.
Yeah, but it's such an important, having that, someone there, a parent or a service provider, it is really important, because even when I was in the school setting, having that parent engagement was so important. And I found that the students whose parents were calling me, checking in, asking for ideas, and actually reporting back to me on how things were going at home were the students who did better. Because if it's one thing, if you're working on something, if I had a social skills group in class, during the day, and if I have students whose I'm teaching them a skill, and if I have parents who aren't following through at home, it's just forgotten. I see them for 20 to 30 minutes a week, mm-hmm. in a group, and then if there's some sort of follow through at home, a young adult isn't going to remember those skills. It's that practice piece, that being able to implement during the day and have that actual hands-on kind of experience to say, okay, I'm doing it. You know, even if it's, I mean, what are some ways do you have any ways that you tell parents that they can incorporate, you know, like sort of activities that they can incorporate during the day? Like if they're having the student or their child be engaged with maybe a grocery shopping and helping them prepare how much money that they have to spend. Is there any types of activities that parents can sort of do to follow through on this and include in their daily lifestyle now?
Well, we haven't had that conversation with the adults in the lives of the adolescents that we're working with, but certainly when you are working with a young person and being able to have a similar message that we had from our workshop surely continues to validate that it's true. Yeah. You know, quote unquote true. So if you have a young, if your daughter participated in our Define Your Purpose workshop, which is a session where you are defining what your rationale for existence is, how you have relationships and they're mutually beneficial, and how you are an economic value to your society and to your subculture. I would then ask you, make sure that you check in with your daughter on the plan that she created with us, or give her some dry erase markers where she can write her rationale for existence on her mirror, so she has a constant affirmation and reminder all the time of what she created. Because I think a lot of times some teenagers and some young adults are not recognized for their strengths and the fact that they create and develop a lot, like every day, you know, and being able to say to someone, you know, you were able to define how you are an economic value to your society. And how many 16-year-olds can do that, can actually come out and say that, and being able to work with them on memorizing that, so when they are communicating with someone like myself or you, and they are marketing themselves as being a summer intern, they're able to say, this is how I bring economic value to your company. Just because a 16-year-old says that, they don't even have to say anything after that. I'm going to want to. Because you're telling me what economic value you're going to bring to my company at 16. Like, really?
And it's so hard sometimes for, I mean, a lot of the students that I used to work with, it was so hard for them to list their strengths. We had this one activity, and it was my favorite one, where we just had a sheet of construction paper, and they wrote their name in the middle, and around it they had to fill it with positive strengths that they could offer, either, you know, in the school day, positive things about them at home, just like one or two words around, fill it around their whole name. And it took some students a long time, and I needed to even help them. And I would sort of guide them and say, well, remember the time you did this? That was, you know, here's a strength that you had for there. And they'd say, that is something, you know, Miss Lotmore, that is something I could write. But it was like trying to help them really see their value. And it was an activity I did with multiple students, and most of them struggled with it, to list those positive things about them and what they can offer. So what I ended up doing was, we had a laminating machine at the school. So I laminated it, and I said, here, take this home and put it in a place where you can look at it every day. So when you're feeling down, or keep it in your binder, when you're feeling down, look at it and remind yourself of these things. Because the fact that it took them so long to think about, or be able to even to name these positive things about themselves, makes me seem like if somebody, bullied them, or if somebody said some negative comment to them, they wouldn't have that self-confidence to disagree with it. Even internally, they wouldn't have that ability to say, well, that's not true, because I am a smart person, or I do have great traits and great qualities, because it really took them a long time to recognize it. And so that's a really good thing that you're doing with the young adults you're working with, is really helping them to be able to identify their strengths.
Right.
And be able to, that's a really important thing, to be able to have that confidence in yourself, to be able to get through in conversations with anyone who might have any type of criticism or even constructive criticism. You need that confidence to sort of not take it too personally and crumble.
But also knowing what your weaknesses are.
Yeah.
And it's fine. We all have flaws.
We do.
No one's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So knowing what your weaknesses are, one of the common questions that are asked in most interviews are, what are your 3 strengths and what are your 3 weaknesses? And a lot of people struggle with the weaknesses piece, because you don't want to say that you don't know how to use a copy machine, mm-hmm. But being able to say, I'm not familiar with the functions of a copy machine. However, I'm very open to learning so that I can be an asset to this team that I'm soon going to be a part of, and being able to talk very confidently, even in an interview, and saying the team that I'm going to be a part of, or instead of the team that I may be a part of. Yeah. So it's even those simple little nuances. And one strength for almost any young person in this generation, which is a skill, knowledge that I learned from the Rockefeller College, is information systems. Mm-hmm. And I took an information systems class, and there was just so much that I learned. And here, I was a graduate student of School of Social Welfare. I think I was the only social worker in the class, mm-hmm. But Facebook is an information system. Twitter is an information system. All these social media, what do you do? Tools, are information systems. Mm-hmm. So if you're able to put on your resume ability to manage an information system and communicate with people through information systems and post, comments or whatever they're called on all these things. I'm able to tweet. Yeah. So, but being able to wordplay or wordsmith, and utilize what you do every day on your cell phone and put that on your resume, and that's a strength. And that is one of the strengths that usually, when I'm talking to young people who are always on the phone, do you realize that that's an information system and that you're managing a system? There's a lot that's going on behind there, and there's even a lot that you're doing to post. You have to edit what you wrote before you post it onto Facebook, because you know that the world is going to see this. So that means that is a representation of you and who you are as a person, and your attention to detail. Yeah. So
I like how you worded it, but it's not something I ever would think. So many times we're reading articles and it talks about the negative of youth being on, Facebook and Twitter and all the technology, and they're not having that social interactive piece. And, I'm guilty of that sometimes as well. But you have to tie it back to it's really how appropriate are the students, or the young adults using it. And when you use social media as a positive tool, it can go so far. You can do so much with that. It's just a way to network and communicate and to reach out and speak to people that you would never have been able to connect with, either for networking purposes, for jobs, even just people to act as a mentor. You can reach out to so many people, and you are learning skills. Like you were saying, you're learning to sort of think before you write something. You're taking that time to process. And it's a skill that I think more young adults and even adults need, that sort of, let's process before I post something. But it's, we have it on our phones. We just, pull out our phone, open Facebook, and type a status update and just post, and it's without that, should I really post this? Should I be writing this? Who's going to see this? Right. Is this going to have an effect on me in the future? Mm-hmm. And especially for younger adults, it's sort of that quick post, kind of without really thinking how it can affect them later on. Right. So is that something that you guys address in your program? Mm-hmm. It is? Oh, that's really, really great. Now, do you do mostly individual, or not individual, with your organization? Do you do mostly the groups on site, or do you actually go into schools sometimes and partner where you can do, I mean, some of this stuff is so great. You'd think that schools would love to have you come in or maybe present or do something. Do you have any partnerships yet with a school, or is it mostly student or individuals come to you?
We are working hard to foster those partnerships with schools. I'm happy that you're acknowledging that would be a great idea. So all those teachers that are out there.
Yeah.
But you have the Common Core that's coming out, and there are several ways that Mission Accomplished would be able to support, probably specifically more English, social study teachers with meeting their Common Core learning standards. So that is certainly a goal of ours, to be able to partner with the local teachers and work with them and their students in the classroom during the school day.
I love it.
I do too.
For being in a school setting, I just know I always needed that. I mean, I was the only social worker in a school of 200. And I had a lot of, we were inner city Albany. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of students who weren't at that skill level socially and emotionally, and didn't have a lot of these the tools or the skills, I should say, that your workshops focus on. So having someone like you come in and sort of do a whole group kind of discussion and training and workshops, and either in school or after school, that type of network would have been so great to have, just because it's focusing. You can reach so many more students. There's only so much one social worker can do, or one, a teacher in a classroom with so many other students, when they're trying to get the academic piece done first, because that's the priority for them. Having someone else come in and sort of take that load off, to help the students address other issues that are going on with them in life. Because how can you do well academically if you don't have the time management piece skill, or if you don't have that ability to have that self-care where you can de-stress? So many of the skills that you're focusing on ties back into positive academic performance, because without those skills, you can't really be successful academically, because maybe you don't have the study skills. Maybe you don't have some of the other types of relationship skills. I mean, I had a student once who got so upset at another student before the state test, they walked out of the room, and it was sort of, I had to do a little bit of crisis management to try to get them back in there for the state exam. But if they had a lot more of that conflict resolution skills, they would have been able to sort of calm down earlier on, so it didn't blow up as an issue. So it does tie, those social skills and those life skills tie in so much to the academic performance of students.
And and also the workforce performance of a young person, because we all have to work. Yeah. So those skills that are being developed in the school setting certainly transfer to the workforce. So if you're able to sit in a classroom and take an exam, you're probably going to be more apt to sit in an office and complete your work tasks for the day. Yeah. Or you may have people who like to be out and about, but those communication skills, you have to have the gift of gab. Yeah. To do that, to make sure that you're able to develop those relationships. And when people see you, it's like, oh, here comes Alyssa, instead of, oh God, here comes Alyssa. Yeah.
It's sort of, you want people to want you to come with them. And that's another thing that I noticed when some of my students went to high school, if they didn't have that communication piece, they struggled. If they couldn't address, different ways, if they couldn't address when they needed help, if they couldn't address if they were getting frustrated and would blow up at like a teacher, if they didn't have those skills to ask or to express their emotions in a healthy way, it falls apart too. So there's so much that is needed in these life skills.
And the foundation to all of that, I believe, is the looking forward piece, which is the self-confidence the self-confidence life skill within the Casey life skills assessment, because when you're confident in yourself, there isn't that much that bothers you. I mean, we all get defensive in certain situations, but there's not that much that bothers you. But when you're always looking for outside recognition, then you're more apt to explode and get into some sort of altercation, which is, the self-confidence piece is really, 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 it's really important.
It is. It is. I mean, I even know from my own personal experience when, when I was growing up, it was, sometimes I would need that other people to tell me you're doing a good job. And then when I went to high school, I got involved with track, and that ended up being I loved track and field and cross country. And I was good at it. I had a natural talent for it. And over the course of high school and even through college, as I ran for Albany, it was, my confidence just was built, and it was my whole character changed, not in a bad way, but in a way that I went up to people more. I was more social. I just had a confidence about myself that other people could notice, not in a bad way, not in a way of bragging or anything like that, but it was just, I was more comfortable to go up and have a conversation with someone. It just allowed me to interact better with others and not need someone else to tell me, oh, you're doing a good job, to feel good. And one of the things I like to do is whenever, when somebody does something that's good, it's not say you can say I'm proud of you, but also say you should be proud of yourself, because you have to teach individuals to not need that affirmation. It's great that I'm proud of you, but you should be proud of yourself, because look at what you did. Right. And that's something that's so, I love when kids and people really feel that, okay, I did a good job, and that's enough for me to feel good about myself in that sense.
And I still struggle with that.
Yeah.
I have people like, you did this great thing, and I'm like,
yeah, I'm
doing what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
But when I really sit and think about it, it's difficult being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It is difficult, but still, I'm like, I'm paying it forward.
Yeah.
I had people who were there for me, who didn't have to be there for me, but they were. And so now I feel like it's my turn to be there for a lot of somebodies, in order to be able to support people with identifying what their purpose is and going for it.
Yeah.
Full force ahead. And not being afraid to ask for help, because no one is successful by themselves.
Yeah.
I don't care what people might say.
Could you have done this without the help, asking people for help? Could you ever have done this just on your own, saying, I'm going to do this and I don't need anyone. I'm just going to do my courses, and I'm just going to start my own nonprofit right now. Would you have been able to do it?
Absolutely not. Mission accomplished would not be where it is today if I didn't have some of the supports that I had. And one of my mentors, who actually sits on my board now, is Barry Walston. And Barry will put you on the spot in a minute in a crowd full of people, and he would always tell me, Carmen, you always need to be ready. Always. You never know when someone is going to come to you and ask you a question, and you always need to be ready. So in order for you to always be ready, you have to have a high level of self-confidence. You have to feel like you know what you're talking about. And even in those instances where you don't know what you're talking about, being able to say, I'm not really sure about this, but this is my idea. And you let me know what your feedback is on this, especially as someone who's experienced. But he definitely has been, a real challenger in my life, of challenging me and helping me recognize that I am this great person, and I do bring a lot to the table. And as a young adult who was going through graduate school, that I did have the knowledge and the skills to be able to show up as an asset in the community, So a lot of what Mission Accomplished is based on is from the people who guided me, you know. And Kay Hogan, who is she was my caseworker when I was in the independent living program. She was a pseudo mom. I always tell people about this story when she drove me all the way up to Malone to see my dad when he was in prison at the time on a Sunday, nonetheless. Yeah. So she took time away from her 2 sons and her husband and whoever else she might spend time with on a Sunday to take me to go spend time with my father, you know. So she took a good 16, 18 hours out of her day to make sure that I was able to meet a goal for myself. So, you know, Mission Accomplished is about that. It's about being a support and an advocate for teens and young adults and helping them recognize that they are assets and we can help them show up.
Well, I mean, we're running out of time here, but I think that's a really great way to sort of close our show, because right now, you created Mission Accomplished to have young adults sort of develop that positive feeling that they can do it. And right now, you're an inspiration to a lot of people. As you started your own nonprofit, you've created something that can benefit so many people, and you're paying it forward. And you're allowing other people to learn skills. It's not like you're doing something that you're really the only one benefiting. You're doing something that other people can now benefit from and learn these skills and develop a confidence so that they can go on and do things in their life that they really dreamed of and now say, hey, maybe I can do it. And actually, not maybe, I can do it, because now I have those skills. So I know is there any ways that we can support Mission Accomplished through fundraising, anything that you guys are doing that you want us to know about?
We are always looking for experienced volunteers to help us out. We have a fundraiser scheduled for December 14th. It is our I'm About My Business fashion show, which is a fashion show where teens and young adults ages 13 to 24 will model business professional and business casual attire. And it's scheduled to take place at Trinity Alliance of the Capital Region in Albany. We're looking for professional attire donation for mainly for young ladies. And we are also having a fundraiser on March 8th, which is our dance-a-thon. So these fundraisers are going to be annual, but of course this is our first time having them. So we're having a dance-a-thon on March 8th, and that is about people dancing for a cause. So people will dance for an 8-hour time period. Oh
my goodness.
So they'll have to, find people. They'll have to find people to sponsor them so that they can dance at the dance-a-thon. But you can contact us at 463-3175, extension 129.
And you also have a website. Can you just say that, so in case people want to look it up after the show?
Yes, it's M as in mission, A as in accomplished, transitionservices.com. MATransitionservices.com.
Well, Carmen, that was a great show today. I've learned so much about what you do and the ins and outs of starting your own nonprofit, and also about your program and the skills that a lot of our youth need today. So thank you for being on the show. Our next host is here in the studio. Jaja is here. So we're going to hand it over to her. Thank you, and we'll be back next week with Catherine.